The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
We all know that Ashton Jeanty is a big-time playmaker, but what are realistic expectations for him his rookie year?
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast.
What are realistic expectations for Ashton Jeanty in his rookie season? There's been a lot of conversation. Obviously, he was Superman there at Boise State, going over 2,600 yards. He was a one-man wrecking crew there at Boise State. But this is the NFL. It's a different ball game. He's not going to necessarily be that guy. But there are a lot of high expectations out there for him. And I heard a few different guys nationally talking about Ashton Jeanty, and of course that caught my attention. One of those guys, Brian Baldinger, he was on the Jim Rome show. I have a lot of respect for Baldy. His Baldy breakdowns are fantastic. Normally he's talking about Max Crosby, the Condor, breaking him down and what he does so well on the field. Well, now he's talking about Ashton Jeanty. Jim Rome had asked him about him and thought about what his expectations are for him year one with the Raiders. Check it out.
I mean, I think he's the leading choice right now to be the offensive rookie of the year, Jim. I mean, I think Geno Smith, whoever's playing quarterback, is going to turn around and hand it off to him 300 times. He's going to touch it 300. He's a good receiver. It could be 350. He's going to get the ball a lot. Pete Carroll made his living with Reggie Bush and Marshawn Lynch and Chip Kelly. His first year in the NFL, I mean, Shady McCoy in Philadelphia in 2013, Jim, he led the league in rushing. So they're going to feature the run game, and they were last in rushing a year ago. That is going to turn around this year. I think he is going to be a big part of what I believe is going to be a Raider turnaround in Las Vegas.
So Baldy right there says 300 to 350 touches, offensive rookie of the year. My good friend John McClain has been covering the NFL for a long time. He joins my radio show each and every Tuesday. The first thing he said on Tuesday when he joined the show was the Raiders have the offensive rookie of the year in Ashton Jeanty. So there's a lot of high expectations where people believe he's going to be the offensive rookie of the year. Brian Baldinger talking about 300 to 350 touches his rookie year. That is obviously a combination of carries and receiving the ball of the backfield, which he didn't do a lot in 2024, but the year before he was able to do quite a bit, and I think that that's an underrated part of his game. I do believe he's going to be heavily involved. 300 to 350 touches, that is a lot. So that was Brian Baldinger on Jeanty on the Jim Rome show. How about Jordan Reed? He was asked about Ashton Jeanty and what he could bring to the table, and not necessarily even asked about Ashton Jeanty, just about a guy, a rookie who's going to make an immediate impact, and have that great return for the team that selected him. He was on ESPN's Unsportsmanlike. Chris Canty's actually the one asking Jordan Reed this question.
Jordan, when you look at the 2025 rookie class, who's the player that you think will be the most impactful, that will have the quickest return on investment for that franchise?
Well, I think the obvious one is Ashton Jeanty. Well, with the Las Vegas Raiders, he enters into an offense that doesn't have a clear option at running back. So he's going to be one of their better playmakers, along with Brock Bowers. We know Pete Carroll likes to run the football. That's what he wants to do. I think he saw a modern-day version of Marshawn Lynch in Jeanty, and I think that's why they were so adamant about picking him at number 6 overall. So Ashton Jeanty definitely is one I can see translating right away.
So you hear Jordan Reed default to Ashton Jeanty. No clear running back outside of Jeanty with the Raiders. Carroll likes to run the ball, called him the modern-day Marshawn Lynch. So what do we believe are realistic expectations? And so I was wondering, as I was thinking about, touches and yards and touchdowns, I started to think okay, so what about what Josh Jacobs did as a rookie? And then I thought about, forget Josh Jacobs as a rookie. How about just his whole career, what he's done so far? So I went back and pulled the numbers. 2019, his rookie year, he had 242 carries, ran for 1,150 yards, had 7 touchdowns. That was in 13 games. And remember, all this is going to be based off of health. Ashton Jeanty's got to stay healthy as well, right? I mean, this is the NFL, and anyone is subject to get injured at any time. But we're just going to assume that he's going to be healthy. So 1,150 yards, 7 touchdowns in 13 games, Josh Jacobs' rookie year. 2020, he upped his carries, 273 yards, but his yards went down to 1,065, but he had 12 touchdowns. That was in 15 games. So his yardage goes down, has more carries. 2021, 217 carries, 872 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's in 15 games. Didn't even hit 1,000 yards. That was the year that the Raiders made the playoffs somehow, some way. Gruden had got fired. Bisaccia takes over as the interim head coach, and somehow, some way, they find themselves in the playoffs, and then they had a first-round exit to the Cincinnati Bengals. But less than 1,000 yards in 2021 for Jacobs on 217 carries. Then he comes back in 2022, 340 carries. None of this is talking about receptions. 1,653 yards and 12 touchdowns in 17 games. That was the year he led the league in rushing. That was the year that he was told they weren't picking up his fifth-year option, and he was in a contract year, and he went and balled out. The next year, 2023, 233 carries, so it goes down more than 100 carries, 805 yards, 6 touchdowns in only 13 games. So played in 4 less games the following year. And then obviously he was out of there going to Green Bay as a free agent. So last year, 2024, he's back up to 301 carries, 1,329 yards, 15 touchdowns, and again, played in 17 games. So twice in Josh Jacobs' career so far, he's played the full amount of games. 17 games in 2022, 17 in 2024. And then the other seasons when there was only 20 or 16 games, he got the 13 games or 15 games. And then in 2023, only 13 games. That's when Zamir White had that, 4-game breakout where you thought, okay, man, this guy may be able to take the role of Josh Jacobs, and clearly that wasn't possible in 2024. So what does any of that mean when it comes to Ashton Jeanty? I just wanted to kind of get a ballpark figure of how much he was used. So I'm looking at and thinking about that 300 number that Baldy had mentioned. I don't think that Jeanty quite gets to 300 carries this rookie year. I kind of put him around 275. I think that would be reasonable. I also realize that the Raiders have more weapons, right? They have a Brock Bowers. They have a Jacoby Myers. They have a Big Mike who I think is going to play a role. They have Thornton who I think is going to, catch some touchdown passes and stretch the field a little bit. They've got other guys that they can get the rock to. And then even near the end zone, they still have Raheem Mostert, who is, a guy that's really good at getting into the end zone on the short yardage. So I think that there's going to be a few elements in play. I don't think that they're going to hit him for 300 carries his rookie year. Remember, he had 750 carries at Boise State, so he's already got a lot of carries on him. Not that they're going to go in and try to put a governor on him. I just don't see him being that guy that's going to carry the rock that much. They got a competent quarterback in Geno Smith, so I think they're going to let him cook a little bit as well. And even if he carries the rock 275 times, I definitely believe that his presence is still going to be felt. With that being said, I think that 275 carries could still get him around 1,300 yards. And you remember it used to be 1,000 yards was kind of like, hey, if you're a running back, you got to get to 1,000 yards. You had a really good season. It's not really the standard anymore, especially now that there's 17 games, right? I like to see Jeanty around 1,300 yards. Like, I honestly would like to see him around 1,700 yards, which means he's getting about 100 yards per game. But I know there's going to be a game or two that he's not going to get that, right? I mean, it just happens. That's the nature of the beast when it comes to the NFL. But I think 1,300, around 1,300 yards is reasonable. Again, I don't want to set the bar too high. I don't want to act like all of a sudden they're going to go from being the worst rushing team in the league to the best. 1,300 yards would have had him around 7th, would have had him right behind Josh Jacobs last year across the league. Josh Jacobs had, I think, 1,302, and then there was a running back that had 1,299. So that would have put him about 7th in the league. I think that that's fair, especially as a rookie. I think 275, 1,300 yards and double digits touchdowns is something that you can expect. The thing about Jeanty that I think is going to really help him is where Josh Jacobs didn't hit a bunch of home runs. Jeanty has the chance to be a home run hitter. That's the one element that could change the game. That could all of a sudden put his numbers up closer to 1,400 because he could all of a sudden go 4 yards, 5 yards, 55 yards touchdown, right? I mean, that's the capability that he has. That's the one difference between him and Josh Jacobs. And everyone who's listened to this show for a while knows I have a ton of respect for Josh. Josh was not just the big home run hitter. There was times when he'd break out for a 25-yard run or a 30-yard run, break a lot of tackles. They'd be pulling his jersey and ripping his jersey, and that'd be fantastic. We'd all get fired up. But if Jeanty gets in front of you, you see the back of his jersey, he's going to be gone. I mean, it's just that simple. And I described it on my radio show, I don't think he's quite the home run hitter that like a Napoleon Kaufman was, when I always felt like anytime Knapp got the ball in his hand, he could take it to the house. But he's also, I don't think, going to lose yards as much as Knapp did. It's like Knapp would go 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, minus 3 yards, 85 yards touchdown, right? I mean, it's just you had to give him the ball enough times. He was going to break 1 or 2, right? I think that you'll see more consistent running from Ashton Jeanty. So that's why I put him around 1,300. I still think that that's going to help Geno Smith so much as far as just being a productive quarterback, because you know that he has that ability to hit a home run when it comes to giving the ball to Jeanty, and I believe that's going to suck the defense up. So once they start to come up and do like the Chiefs did in the Super Bowl and say, hey, you know what, Saquon Barkley's not going to beat us, that's when a guy like Geno Smith can hit Bowers, Jacoby Myers, right, can go deep, right, because they're all of a sudden now they're leaving themselves vulnerable on the outside and even over the middle. Jack Besh, I don't think he's being talked about enough. I think he's going to be a factor not only in the passing game but in the running game as well because he's willing to block. That's a big deal. Big Mike, I think he's going to have a big year for the Raiders because he's willing to block. That's the other thing. You got to have guys that are willing to block. And I believe that the toughness and the culture that Pete Carroll and company are trying to create are going to have guys that are going to be willing to do the dirty work as well. Jacoby Myers, you already know he does that. He has no problem blocking. He is that guy. He has no problem. Devontae, when he was with the Raiders, was not good at blocking and didn't really care. He wasn't really interested in blocking. But it's Devontae Adams, and you know what he's going to bring to the table, so you deal with it. The only guy that's kind of a struggle bus when it comes to blocking is Brock Bowers. But again, similar to Devontae, you know what he brings to the table, so you're willing to say, hey, that's all right. Let everybody else do the heavy lifting when it comes to blocking. You just get open and do what you do because he has an opportunity to be fantastic. 2 years in a row, the Raiders got the best guy at their position. So I'm looking at production just based off of Josh Jacobs, based off of what Baldinger says and other guys that are expecting – Ashton Jeanty to be in the position to be offensive rookie of the year. Now, if a quarterback goes out there and balls out, then you know that's lights out. It's church. They're going to end up being the offensive rookie of the year. But I do feel like he's going to be in line to be that guy. You're going to see a lot of heavy lifting. And if he goes in his rookie year for 1,300 plus, gets double-digit touchdowns, and helps the Raiders get to 8-9 wins, whatever the case may be, I definitely see him in line for offensive rookie of the year. And you know what? He could surprise me and do even more than that his rookie year. But again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and set the bar too high.
Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. And with 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. XPass Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen.
The Denver Broncos running back room has struggled over the last couple of years, but we'll tell you why RJ Harvey and Audric Estime may very well be the solution to the Broncos' problems.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast.
Let's go into this as we continue our profile series here on RJ Harvey. Now, the Broncos' second-round pick in the 2025 NFL draft here. I feel like when we get into these player profile series, a lot of people in Broncos country want to know, what is the projection here for the depth chart? How might that work out? I would say the running back position right now might be the trickiest one to try to put together when we talk about the full picture of this room. But where do you estimate that Harvey's going to land?
No pun intended there, right, Cody? We got, don't underestimate this running back room because Audric Estime, he's not to be underestimated. Maybe next time we will estimate him. No, I think that he's going to fit in wherever the Broncos feel like, hey, this guy's going to get the most touches in the offense. Last year, Javonte Williams had 197 total touches, Jaleel McLaughlin 137. So I think when you look at that breakdown from last year, it's probably not going to be the exact same, right? Because we hope and expect the Broncos to be better at running the football this year, and therefore the backs should probably get more touches. However, I think that you're going to see RJ Harvey leading the way in terms of overall touches within the offense. The Broncos and general manager George Paton specifically have talked about how they feel like Harvey has this untapped potential as a receiver, and they obviously believe that he can be a difference maker for an offense that the offensive line has been graded exceptionally high when it comes to run blocking the last couple of years. And I think the Broncos are believing that it's the running backs that have been the problem. And it's been 2 years of sample, right? Javonte over the last 2 years has really struggled. And so the Broncos move on from him this offseason. You get RJ Harvey in the building. I feel like he's going to be that guy that leads this team in overall touches, regardless of where he lands on the depth chart.
I'm very curious as well to see how Sean maneuvers the running back rotation this year, right? I think maybe we can give an early projection here. Do you think they carry 3 or 4 running backs on their 53-man roster? I'm on the premise of saying I think they carry 3. But then again, if they like Blake Watson, I mean, remember, they brought Blake Watson up to the 53 last year because some other teams were poking around trying to prime away off the practice squad. I'm curious to see how this is going to formulate. But my thought here is, like, from you, like, do you see there being 3 or 4 here on the 53?
I think there's going to be 3 plus a fullback, right? And then I like Blake Watson to take that 3rd spot because, look, Jaleel McLaughlin has not been discussed when it comes to this joker position offensively, and neither has Tyler Bidet. I think you and I both agree that if there's any holdover from last year's roster that had those joker qualities, it was probably Blake Watson. And I can't help but feel the Broncos are excited about him.
Well, one thing I want to highlight here, and obviously Sean Payton told us this at the end of the year press conference, is that he doesn't necessarily believe in the bell cow in today's game, right? Because obviously you have 17 regular season games soon to be in the next, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 18 regular season games. And if you get into the postseason, that's added games in that standpoint there. And I think with the wear and tear, like, Sean is one guy who uses, a variety of different services. He tracks players' usage and wear and tear throughout the course of a practice, throughout the course of the entire week. Like, he's a big believer in that because he doesn't want to put too many miles on these guys' bodies in terms of practice. But also when you factor in games, the running back position, we all know, it absorbs the most content across the entire NFL. And it's one of those ones where it is boom or bust. When you get to the outside, can you make certain plays happen while trying to avoid being hit by linebackers and by safety? So I think that's something certainly to highlight here. But you mentioned like Javonte's touches, Jaleel's touches, Audrick's touches last year. I feel like a lot of the struggles at running backs here was because there was no continuity in an established rotation at running back, right? So for me, I think if we have to predict it right now, roster locks at this position, I think Audrick Estime is a roster lock, and I think RJ Harvey is a roster lock, and I think you're going to have 3 or 4 other guys battling for that last spot there. And I think that's going to be exciting. I think it's going to raise the floor of that room here. But you mentioned something about the grading of the offensive line. The Broncos had the offensive line graded as their highest graded unit internally by the team. That's something that George Payton said. The defensive line was second. And I think it goes to those issues that we saw. Like, when you go back and watch film, how many times did we see a hole open up or Javonte not see it, not hit the hole, or not trust to have patience in that? I look at RJ Harvey's college tape, and literally there's times where he's supposed to hit in the A gap and that hole closes because it's not blocked. Well, he didn't have a great offensive line at UCF, but his vision and patience allowed him to make plays. And that's something that this Broncos offense has not had at the running back position in quite some time. And the hope is that RJ Harvey can come in and lead this for this team.
Yeah, and you can't help but wonder, with the concerted effort to get him the ball, who stands to kind of not benefit from that, right? I mean, that's the other backs on this roster, like Jaleel McLaughlin last year getting 137 touches, like we mentioned. It's crazy because his snap count and touches overall went up pretty significantly from his rookie year in 2023, when he was kind of the new, the shiny undrafted free agent, the sleeper, the guy who's cracking the roster after a great preseason. His usage goes up and his yards per touch goes way, way down. He only finished with 2 additional yards from scrimmage last season compared to his rookie year, Cody. 572 last year, 570 the year prior. And again, even with the increase in overall touches, same number of touchdowns. And so I'm not trying to bag on Jaleel McLaughlin or anything like that, but I do think that it's important for us to talk about there's going to be a ripple effect of adding even just one back to this roster. And that's one of the things I'm most shocked about, is that Broncos add RJ Harvey. They haven't added anybody else. And even if they add, Captain America, Chris Evans, it doesn't matter who they end up adding to the roster. This is substantial. They won't make any more substantial move barring an unexpected trade. This is the guy, and everything that they're doing tells us what we can expect about this guy's role as a rookie.
And I think a lot of the mystery here that we're all trying to solve is this guy going to come in and he's going to get, the starting reps? You mentioned overall volume of snaps. I think where RJ has an advantage here over Audric is that I imagine that RJ is probably going to be more of a weapon as a pass catcher. Though I would say Audric Estime might be a little underrated in that category. Remember, there was this one play, I can't remember, it was against the Falcons. I think this was kind of in garbage time where there's a screen play. I think Bo Nix dumps it off to Audric out in the flat. He hurdles a defender. It gets called back because a defender for the Falcons was holding on to Bo Nix a little too long, and Garrett Bowles got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, unnecessary roughness, 15 yards. I still think that, man, the smash and dash combination that could be on display here for the Broncos, I think, is a very distinct possibility. When you look at this running back room with these two guys here, I know the Broncos, they still believe a lot in Audric Estime. And I think that's what we're going to see, the emphasis early on in training camp. Don't be surprised if you come out and Audric's getting the first reps with the first team offense, and you're seeing RJ Harvey mixing with the second and third team, maybe here and there the first team. But the same exact thing happened with Bo Nix last season when the Broncos were going through their quarterback competition. There will be a running back competition. It's going to be extensive, and RJ Harvey is going to have an opportunity to prove himself very early on here for the Broncos.
There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute Major League Baseball showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA playoff game. Finding great seats, though, that used to be a challenge until Game Time. With last-minute deals, all-in prices, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as the beginning of the game gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris have put a big emphasis on upgrading the defensive side of the football this offseason, Jarvis. But now we know the pieces added that are supposed to help get them to there, wherever there is. Of course, we know that's the postseason. But is there even more pressure for starters on the defense to be better? Or is there more pressure on the offense to put points on the board as the defense figures it out? Or is there pressure on the offense to put up big numbers because you don't want to be the weakest link after your front office did all that they did to get you some help?
I think there's more pressure on specifically Michael Penix and Zach Robinson to essentially carry this team until the defense gets it figured out, because like we know that the offensive line has that continuity. I mean, we're still trying to figure out who's going to be the center. Ryan Newsel, has he signed his contract or what? We're trying to write a first refusal. Y'all correct me, but I haven't seen anything saying that he signed that deal just yet. So I think that, outside of that, we know what we're getting. We know what to expect from Matthew Bergeron. We know what to expect from Chris Lindstrom. We know we're going to get from Caleb McGarry, whether you like it or not. And we know what we're going to get with Jake Matthews, being there every game. So I feel like, with the weapons and everything that's on the offensive side of the football, like I said, I put it out there. I put a number on it. I know no one else want to put a number on it. I was like, hey, 26, 27 points a game. I need that because the defense got to figure it out. They got so many moving parts and new pieces over there. So, yeah, I feel like the pressure is on for this offense to be able to carry this team until the defense gets it figured out.
Yeah, and I think that is a fair assessment because you already had the pieces in place. If you didn't, then your draft probably would have looked a little bit differently as well. But for you, Maria, when you kind of take a step back and you look at not just the moves that Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris, and that front office made in the draft, but also in the offseason, for you, do you feel like there's more pressure on this defense to get better and get them there? Is the pressure on the offense? Because, hey, you still have to put points up while this defense and Jeff Ulbrich kind of figures it out. Or is there pressure on the offense to put up those numbers more so because, hey, you don't want to be the weakest link after we allegedly fixed the weakest link?
There's pressure everywhere. There's literally pressure everywhere. There could not be more pressure on the Falcons right now, no matter how you look at it, and especially from the top down. I mean, we've talked about it for months and for weeks. Terry Fontenot, this is about as hot as it gets when it comes to pressure. So yeah, I mean, I feel like there's pressure on Mike. There's always pressure on a quarterback, but to Jarvis's point, that side of the ball is a little bit more complete. It's funny when you go to training camp, it's usually, you guys know, the defense is 2 steps ahead of the offense. It's just kind of how it goes. There's more install on the offensive side of the ball. And now you don't really have as big of a learning curve. You have the same play caller, talking about offensively, you have the same play caller coming over. You've got some moving parts like TJ Yates is moving on to pass game coordinator, stuff like that. But for the most part, this is their sophomore season together. Like they had the whole, let's figure out how we're going to call things offensively. Let's figure out what it looks like. I actually even asked TJ Yates that yesterday. I said, how good does it feel that you just, as it sits right now, you don't have a quarterback controversy. Mike's the guy you can move along with. This is the quarterback of the future. So, for them, it's kind of status quo. And for the defense, there's so many things that look different, right? You talk about the offseason and you bring in some of those guys in free agency. And then obviously, you said that the draft speaks for itself. If you thought that side of the ball was A-okay and we're ready to roll, you wouldn't have drafted 4 out of the 5 guys on the defensive side of the football. And there's a lot of different things. Raw, obviously, we know is a defensive guy, but you've got Nate Ollie now who, oh my gosh, the energy from this guy is insane. I'm so excited to watch what he can do with that defensive line. And you just have a lot of different moving pieces, new faces coming out on the defensive side of the ball. So I would pump the brakes when it comes to, you guys have to be elite right away. They're going to do a lot to try to make it look different, but I would expect the offense to be a step ahead. But again, I think pressure's everywhere you look in that building right now.
Yeah, I think that might be one of those all of the aboves, Maria, that you're absolutely right. Free. They're everywhere you look, there's pressure. Hey, Rob, we gave you what you wanted. Jeff Ulbrich, we gave you what you wanted. You got your 4 out of 5 on the defensive side of the ball in the draft. We also gave you some little pieces that you are accustomed to working with or worked with before, like a Leonard Floyd. So, yeah, you've got some pressure there. To Maria's point, Michael Penix Jr., you're QB1. That it's a given. You've got pressure on you, but there are parts over there as well. Caleb McGarry, get your game up on the pass rush, if you will. Bijan Robinson, can we see you do it again in year 3? So you've got pieces of pressure on that side of the ball too. But if you had to choose and who had that pressure, if you will, kind of what are you thinking? Are you thinking it's more on the defensive side of the ball? And Terry Fontenot, because, hey, you guys went out and got all those pieces, so time to show and prove. Is it on the offensive side of the ball? Because you have the pieces, so do something with it. Or is it on the offensive side of the ball because they went out and got what they did? So you darn sure can't be the weakest link at this point.
Yeah, not to be the cop-out answer and to piggyback off Maria, it is sort of all of the above. But I do think the offense is going to be held to the higher standard just because that's the unit that they basically said, we already built it. It's ready to roll. Let's get this thing cooking. And, for all the reasons with all the first round picks, with the pressure on Michael Penix to prove that he was worth the pick and all the controversy surrounding that, coupled with you sort of the most stability you have on either side of the ball is on that offensive side of the ball, that continuity that you're talking about, a year or 2 jump with Zach Robinson that we've seen consistently from the previous play callers, whether we're talking about Arthur Smith, Dirk Cutter, Steve Sarkisian, or Kyle Shanahan. All those guys saw significant improvements to their offense in their second seasons in Atlanta. I think the pressure is on the offense to play at a higher standard than it is to the defense. I think most people are just like, hey, man, if you can get somewhere close to league average, which probably at this stage, I know, we're all excited and whatnot, but at this stage is probably, a high standard for this defense, where considering where it was and considering that you're throwing a bunch of young rookies into the fire and these guys are going to have to perform early. And as much as we like this rookie class, as much as we like some of the young talent from the 24 draft and previous drafts, generally speaking, young players don't play particularly well. They're not the most consistent players. And so you're kind of expecting more of a roller coaster with this defense week to week, depending on the matchups. Certain teams they're going to struggle to match up with. Other teams they'll be a better matchup with. But the expectation for the offense is every week you need to be putting up, as Jarvis said, 26, 27 points. That if you look over the last 4 years since the 17-game expansion, if you get to about 24 points a game, 90% of the teams in the last 4 years since they've had 17 games have made the playoffs or had winning records, scoring 24 or more points per game. So that's the expectation, that most of these games, if you can get to 24, 27, 28 points, and if the defense can, just, hey, they can win 28 to 24, and no one's going to complain about that. So
pinch the quarterback. Just pinch him. Just pinch the quarterback.
Yeah, so I think the standard is higher for the offense, but there is a lot of pressure on the defense just because Raheem Morris is a defensive coach. Jeff Ulbrich is coming in with expectations. You've added all these pieces to the defense. So there is going to be pressure on this defense to perform at a high level, but I do think in general, the expectation is going to be that the offense has to sort of carry the team.